Oh my god, this lighting is so harsh.
Yeah, I can adjust the light.
I can adjust the lighting. Go away. Jeez. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bruvcast. This is Gagan.
And I'm Nish.
And this is the Wives episode.
Yeah, we're going to take over this week. Before we start, I think what we do need to do is just start the episode this way, Gagan. What's up, bruv? What's going on, bruv? How's it going?
Good, innit? Innit? Cheerio. Bloody hell. Nippy out. I've been working on my accent.
It's getting better. It's getting better. Okay. You did well.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm kind of nervous. This is weird talking into a mic.
It really is. I mean, most of the time, every week, and well, at least once a week, all I hear through Mick's office door is them laughing their heads off. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, what are they talking about? But I'll just wait to hear the episode.
Have you listened to every single one?
I think I've skipped a few. I just caught up on the last three. The last one was really funny, just especially the whole
the Christmas one.
The Christmas one, yeah, because they're talking about shoe polish, and actually it's quite funny because obviously they weren't saying who gave each of these gifts that they said were bad. And I was sitting there cracking up because I know exactly who it was. I do want to know who Raj's was, so we can find out then. We'll find out one day.
I have not listened to all of them. Well, to my credit, it's the Halloween one I refuse to listen to because I'm the world's biggest scaredy cat.
Fair enough.
And then the last one I just haven't had time because of, mom life, the baby and everything.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Unpredictable, to say the least.
But I'm super proud of them. Yeah. They're smashing it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't lose any of their listeners on this episode. Sorry, guys, if I sound boring.
I mean, we definitely can't do the laugh that they both do because obviously that's the that's the big staple part, isn't it, of their episodes? But I don't know. Maybe we can try and pretend they're like, I don't know what it is. It sounded like a cackle. I can't do it. Anyway, so how do they usually do these things? It starts off with, "What's going on, bruv? What have you been up to?" And then they ask the same question back.
Yeah.
And then it's the whole question thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having a question for each other.
Yeah. Okay, so you go first. What's going on, bruv? What's going on, bruv? What you been up to?
Nothing, bruv. Same old, innit? Same old, every day is just a struggle. No. Anyway. Right, so I have a few questions. I was contemplating on which ones to start with, but actually I'll just go with, let's talk about them, because I'm sure a lot of their listeners also want to know a little bit more about them from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, what's your biggest pet peeve with Raj, and has that changed over the years?
It's so funny because I told Raj, I was like, I want to talk about you guys because you guys vent so hard about us. But then I was worried that it would turn into a rant session because those pet peeves, it's like a mile long or kilometer long.
I know. I mean, to be honest, we'd have to be on another 10 episodes to cover all of them. But pick your top two or something. I don't know.
I think my biggest one is more of just not putting things back and or where he got it from. And that's everything. There's the biggest one thing that he does not put back where it belongs is a freaking kitchen towel. It will always, I should have like an Instagram account that is just a series of him placing the kitchen towel anywhere but where he got it from. It will move.
Where's the craziest place you found the kitchen towel?
On the freaking place he got it from, but crumpled up into a ball and shoved onto the oven handle. I'm like, you were there. Just put it back. What are you doing? But yeah, generally the general theme would be just not putting things back, and it freaking drives me nuts. Everything. And then like he'll be good. The dishwasher thing was a big pet peeve that was a constant, dude, you're not doing it right. And so he got it right. He took the feedback. He like course corrected and put things where they belonged in the dishwasher for probably like 3 weeks. And then something switched and he forgot all about it. And then he just went back to his regular habits. So
I was just about to say, if he's doing it right now, you've got one up over me, because my guy just can't seem to understand. He literally puts stuff in the dishwasher in the wrong shelf where it won't even close. So I'm
my God, yeah.
Like, how did that even make sense? How did you, first of all, get it in there and manage to close the door? And secondly, all I'm doing is rearranging the goddamn dishwasher. As soon as you just leave it. And then, last episode, when he said the person who will not be named and started talking about the dishwasher and the dishes, there's a reason why the dishes will just sit there and not be touched until they need to be at some point, because all I'm doing otherwise is rearranging the goddamn dishwasher. I swear, if he was smaller, I would just chuck him in there and close
it. Oh my God. Yeah. Course corrected, but that was it, I think.
Has it changed over the years, or has it always been the same one?
I mean, we've been married for 2 years, so he's gotten better about certain things. What would be, I feel like he has gotten better, and I need to give him credit for that. I think not necessarily a pet peeve, but when we got married, first started dating, yes, we're Indian and we dated before we got married. This is not an arranged marriage. We dated. But when we started dating, he was really bad about talking about stuff. So if I pissed him off, he would just go silent. Like there was a mute button that he would just push and it would just, there's something wrong, but he wouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Just freaking tell me what's wrong. And then, but he's gotten better over the years, like with that sense. I guess it is a pet peeve when someone's not like communicating and there's clearly something's bothering them.
Yeah. I feel like that's like a typical guy thing though, where it's like when you're trying to get them sometimes just to like open up about a particular topic or just talk it through. Like it's just easier if we talk it through rather than playing like, it's not mind games, but also we're just playing a guessing game as to whether they're okay or what is the actual issue. But yeah, I feel like it's a common thing. Yeah. Probably is a common thing with pretty much all of them. I don't know. Maybe this resonates with people, but yeah. I mean, it sounds like a familiar situation with us as well, I guess.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it does happen. And to be honest, most of the time it just switches off anyway. I don't know if it's because we've been married for so long. And this is just part of a long marriage. But yeah, sometimes it's just like, hello. But yeah.
I just feel like he was like, oh, I'd rather just like kind of deal with my emotions and then talk about it later. And I was like, or we could, my Punjabi side is like, let's bring it on now. Let's handle it. Why we gotta wait? I'm ready to go now. But that's probably one of the biggest things I think that comes to mind. What about you? What are your biggest pet peeves?
Well, actually, that probably leads on to a little bit of where I was just saying, like Mick doesn't always want to talk about things. But saying that, like at the latest one is he'll ask me a question and then I'll start answering the question and then he'll just switch off. And it's like, he'll either go to his phone and he'll just reply to something, like reply to another message, or like it's just like you can visibly see it in his face that he's just switched off. And I'm like, you just asked me the question. I did not need to speak right now. So like, if you're going to ask me a question, just please listen to the answer. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know what it is, but it just seems to be, I don't know if he's on autopilot now. Maybe he's sick and tired of my voice. Who knows? But that's probably one of them. Do you ever? That's the most recent one, I think.
Do you ever ask him like, what did I just say? Or does he pretend like he's
all the time? Yeah, all the time. All the time. And then he'll come out with some bullshit. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't understand. So like, especially when it's in that, do you know when it's in that moment where you're just like, you're winding down, you just want to sit like quietly. and it's like a very serious question, and then all of a sudden they're not listening, and then you lose your train of thought, right? You're like you're saying something, then you're getting into it, and then I get really like worked up about whatever, if depending on what the conversation is, I get like really worked up and into that conversation, and then there's like no response. I'm just like, what just happened?
Lights out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
but yeah,
so just not paying attention when he asks you a question.
Yeah, so that's probably the most recent one, and then there's been others, I guess, over the years.
What's one that's gotten better?
Oh, I don't know.
It's hard to think of those, isn't it?
I know, it really is. I don't know if it's just, but this is the thing, right? You don't know if it's actually gotten better over the years, or if you've just learned to stop caring, or just learn to ignore it and just get on with it.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you know what? They've embarrassed us in some of these episodes. Let's go down this route as well. One of them is like when he farts. I'm sorry. It's just, and I'm sure it's just a guy thing as well. They'll all say it, but like, it's the silent ones. He has this, it's this thing where like and it's like, you have to pick the most, say that again.
You're preaching to the choir over here.
No, seriously, it's like let's go and find the most confined space,
the bed,
where we could do it. Yeah, find the most confined space that we could possibly do it. Let's be as silent as possible, so that they're the most lethal ones. And actually, sometimes I do feel like it's just a tactic to clear the room. Like I remember his he really winds up his parents with this as well. Yeah, it's so funny. And he does it in the worst places where it's just so embarrassing, and I'm just like, that was you, wasn't it? Or even in public. Gagan, I'm not gonna lie, right? It happens in public as well, right? And it's, do you know when it's one of those ones where, I mean, this is probably so like not ladylike to talk about this stuff, but come on, it's real things that us wives have to deal with, and then we have to silently suffer in the background.
It's so true, though. It's the worst. It is the worst. Raj does it 100%. I mean, it's a good day if he doesn't do it, honestly, or he doesn't talk about it, because that is constant, and it's always when we're in bed, just about to fall asleep. And then I'll be like, oh my God. And we have the baby in our room, so I can't even like yell at him properly. It's just a lot of Did you just fart? Are you Jamie? It's so bad. I
know. Imagine doing that when you're in a shopping mall or in a shop somewhere, and you've just gone, like, you're in that area and you just know that it was him. It's like, did you just do that? I'm right near you. This is embarrassing. I need to move away. And they just follow you. They follow you. And it's just one of those things that just don't go away.
It's so disgusting. I think it's just in their DNA, you know.
Yeah, it must be. It must be. I mean, there's this one time where so Mick's parents had a shop, right? And he had a really bad habit of doing it while he was like serving customers. So behind the counter, and he's serving customers. This one time, so I was there as well. I wasn't behind the counter, thank God, at that point. But I was in the shop, and his dad was behind the counter with him as well. And he must have let one rip, and obviously it stunk. And his dad got so angry. He was like, "What are you doing? You disgusting boy!" He said, "You disgusting." He was like, go and take a chula nigori. This is disgusting. And I was in the shop. I think I was down one of the aisles, and I was cracking up. And I looked that way. He was so angry that he couldn't keep it in, and there were customers there. He's just shouting in front
of the customers. Oh my God!
And then after that, you got the typical lecture of you should take one of these tablets every now and then to clear out your system. And
something's wrong with you. Yeah. I tell Raj that all the time. Like, there's something wrong with you. It shouldn't be that bad. That's this often.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I can't believe you did it in a shop.
Yeah. Oh God, it's terrible. Anyway, exposed him a little bit there.
It's okay.
Probably.
They've done more than expose us. on multiple episodes. It's our turn
Yeah.
now.
No, I know exactly.
Okay. Do you want to go serious?
Go for it. Let's do it.
Let's do a sandwich. That was
Yeah?
a fun one, serious, and then we'll do a fun one if we have time.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay. So, my question is going to be, what's the one thing about parenthood that was a complete shock for you? From pregnancy to like today's life. Like you may have had an idea about it, but it is like way different or worse than, let's just say different than what you thought it was going to be. One thing, multiple things, a general theme.
I think what I would say is just how unpredictable things are. So you think you've like grasped something, right? You think that, okay, you've got it, you know what you're doing now, and there is no way things can go wrong or etc. But there's always a surprise, like constantly. So like, no, like right from the point of, as in pregnancy, well, especially for the first time, right? With your first child, you don't really know what to expect, right? All you've ever seen is other people pregnant, never gone through it yourself, blah, blah, blah. And my pregnancy in general wasn't too bad. My first one, my nausea in the first 3 months was like terrible. I was such an annoying person to be around because all I kept doing is complaining that I feel sick. Pregnancy itself wasn't too bad. Birth, on the other hand, it's one of those things. I just think that, oh my God, like no one can prepare you for it. Like no matter what anybody says, it's just one of those things that you can't explain to someone else, no matter how, like you really want to help that person understand like what it feels like in a way, because also you don't want to scare them. But yeah, I don't think anyone can prepare you for that.
No.
And then I guess just like for a very big example is like obviously with my second one, I was like, oh, I've done it before. It's all going to be the same. You know, nothing can surprise me now. Like it's been what? I think Leanna was 2.5 when my younger one was born. And I was like, yeah, we've been through like so many different things over the last 2.5 years. There's nothing that can surprise me now. But you will be shocked. So I think it's just that there's always something that has to be dealt with. And you just think, okay, you've got it under control, but actually you now have to think about it in a slightly different way, or a completely new territory of stuff that you just have to like dive into and make sure that you know. And you also just think that everybody else has it under control and they all know what they're doing, but actually the reality is that none of us do, right? We're all learning as we're going, trying to help each other out where we can, but again, everyone's journey is kind of different.
I get that one. I mean, we're only 4 months in and I feel like it's been 4 years because there's so much change, and like I feel like we have things. There's one day I'll wake up and I'm like, damn, I'm smashing it. I'm such a good mom. This is so easy. And then that evening she will whoop my ass back into shape and be like, actually, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And I will change the script as soon as I can on you. So it's like constant like change. But the pregnancy thing and the birth thing, I completely get it, because I feel like, I mean, obviously we only have the one, it's our first one. I feel like I had no idea what the hell was coming. Everything from the pregnancy and like the sickness, the quote unquote morning sickness, which isn't freaking morning sickness. Constant. It is all day, all night long. Like, oh, yuck.
It is the worst feeling. It is just the worst feeling. I mean, when anybody else, like who, like a child or Mick or anybody complains, says, I feel really sick and I just don't know how to deal with this. I'm like, you know what? Just don't talk to me, because feel sick 24 hours a day and then come and talk to me about how it feels to, like, it's that nauseous feeling. Yeah, exactly.
Like I think I lived on breadsticks and like plain bread and yogurt for like 3 months, because I was just and fruit, like watermelon. That was all I could like get down. But yeah, like things like that. And then like birth and all that stuff. I was like, I was kind of angry when like all of that happened. Like the whole birth thing for us was actually okay. I think it was okay. It was 20 hours, but it didn't feel like it was 20 hours.
Yeah.
But we had a C-section, and by we, I don't know why I'm saying we. I had a C-section. I'm the one who was cut into. But which was fine, right? Because they numb you up, you don't feel anything, whatever. But then afterwards, oh my God, the hormonal like roller coaster you end up on, like everything that comes in those like first 6 to 8 weeks, and your recovery that happens like after C-section, obviously, like C-section, everybody's recovery is different. I was just like so frustrated and angry. I was like, nobody warned me about this.
Yeah.
Because now I think about it, and it's exactly that. Like, you want to share it, you want to explain, like, and warn your friends and family about it who are pregnant or about to go through that, but you can't, because you can't actually know what their birth experience is going to be like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also and it's also like the pain and like just first of all, you don't know what their experience is going to be like, and actually the pain is it's the pain that you can't describe. You just can't describe it. So you can either end up trying to describe it and end up like completely scaring the shit out of the person. And actually, it's probably the worst thing to do to a pregnant person, because actually there's only one way out for that baby. I know. You don't have any other choice. It's not like you can say, okay, actually, I'd like to return you now. I changed my mind. That's not going to happen. So you kind of like, okay, how much do you say and how much don't you say? But actually, on the flip side, some people have it really easy. And I mean, I wish I was one of those people. I mean, second time round, I almost... second time round, they just fly out. Maybe it's not the same for everybody, but definitely was the case for me. I almost had a ride in the toilet. God, it was just... I remember Mick was just like, "Get up, or she's gonna come out in the toilet. You need to move." And I just wasn't. It was crazy. And then I was just like, oh, I don't understand. My experience last time was so different. What the hell just happened? But I mean, it's just,
it's so different for everybody. I know it's not fair that I was like annoyed or whatever, but it's different.
But I think that's normal, though. It's normal because, like you said, right, it's like your hormones are shifting. Unfortunately, people, I don't know, I don't feel like people talk about it enough sometimes. And I think it's normal. It's normal to feel like frustrated and all that kind of stuff. One thing I will say is, like, as the years go on, like, and as time goes on, you actually you almost forget about it, and it just becomes something that, it was something that was part of life. You had to do it, and you just kind of get on with it. But one thing I will say is that just time just goes really, really fast. In the moment, like at the beginning, you think to yourself, oh my gosh, this is just like every day, the same thing, like whatever. But time goes really fast. And you almost don't remember some of this stuff afterwards, because you don't even have time to.
Honestly, I'm already starting... I told myself, like, the first like 3-4 weeks, I was like, I kept reminding myself of the pain of like what happened, like everything that happened that was frustrating, because everyone's like, you're gonna forget it, like everything's gonna kick in, the oxytocin, all of that kind of stuff, and over time you will end up forgetting all of like the worst parts of it. And I was like, I was like so hell-bent on remembering it, and now I barely remember it. And it's only been 4 months. Like, I don't remember, like, I remember being in pain, but I don't actually remember how bad the pain was, which is crazy.
It almost all starts to fizzle out over time, and then you just kind of forget about it, which is probably why people go and have the second kid and the third kid, because they've actually forgotten about it after like a year.
I remember Raj telling me that when I was getting, why do I keep saying we? I had the epidural. When I was getting the epidural.
Do you know what? If and when you do have baby number 2, you're saying we right now. If you have an epidural, make sure they give him one too.
That, I think, was the worst part for me, the most horrible part of the entire thing.
Because, really?
I've learned very quickly I don't like needles. I do not like being poked. And I was like, apparently I I think Raj talked about this in the episode. I gave him the death stare, and I was like, this is it. Like, we're not having any more kids. This is one and done. I'm not doing this shit again, ever. It was so bad. At one point, I was screaming to the anesthesiologist. What do you guys call him here? The
Anesthesist. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm going to.
In America, we call them anesthesiologists.
Oh God.
And
I always get this wrong.
The person who gives you the epidural.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
General anesthesia, all that kind of stuff. That person. I remember being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I changed my mind. I don't want to do it anymore. And then the midwife and Raj and all of them being like, but you will want this in like 20 minutes, a couple hours. You will want this and you'll regret not doing this.
Yeah.
And then I just kept saying, no, I don't want it. And at one point I just went, I just like screamed.
Oh my God.
And then she was like, she just stopped and she was like, I don't know what you want. You're telling me you don't want to do this. You told me you want to do it. And now you're telling me you don't want to do it. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do it. And then Raj was like, she wants to do it. And apparently I'd already told him that I wanted to do it. I think he told this already on one of the previous episodes.
No, you may have told me. I can't remember. But yeah, I've definitely heard the story before.
Yeah, I did not remember him. Like, I did not remember telling him to make sure if I chicken out to just go through with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar situation as well, because I remember I think I said it before, right? That the first birth was like, it was horrendous. I mean, I don't know, it was 20 something hours. In the end, they were like, okay, I wanted a water birth. Don't know why. They put me in a bloody room which had no windows, and it was just so hot in there. I was like, I can't do this. I can't be in here anymore. And they were just like, okay, we just need to take you to theatre. And I was like, okay. And at that point, for some reason, I was quite adamant that I didn't want a C-section. I don't know why. And I didn't want an epidural. Why would someone say no to wanting an epidural? I don't understand. Because actually that just, like, why would you say no to that? So actually I don't even know what my logic was behind that. But all I remember at one point was like, I don't want to see, I don't want to do this right now. I think had I planned it and I knew that I was going to have one or whatever, then maybe I would have been okay with it. But I don't know what it was. But anyway, I remember like they threw scrubs at Mick. Okay. They were like, we need to go into theatre now. Blah, blah, blah. And they were trying to get me to sign a document. I was like, I'm not signing it.
Oh my God.
I'm not signing it. And then he lost his shit. He was like, sign the fucking paper. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm going to do right now, but sign that paper. I'm going to sign it for you. And all I remember is him just shouting his head off. And like the doctors were all kind of like, yeah, it looks like we're going wherever we're going because he's going to sign it anyway. So, I mean, he had to do it in the end. But yeah. I mean, I remember when I was in that theatre, in the end, it was an assisted delivery. They had to use like forceps or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had a episiotomy and oh God. Like, don't even like thinking about it. But the worst thing about all of that, like there was all this pain involved, but the worst thing was, right, is I felt like I lost all my dignity in that moment when I was in that theatre, just because I was like lying, because obviously you can't see anything past a certain point, right? But all I saw was about 20 doctors, nurses, or whatever on that side of my body. I was just like, why? Why are there so many people? Why can't they just be like 2 or 3? Yeah, why? And they're all just standing there, like watching, like they're watching a freaking show. Oh God! Like when they're at the theatre, just like, you know, literally like, in a movie theatre. I was just like, I think I just had to close my eyes. I was just like, I can't do this. And then Mick was like, maybe I should go. I was like, stay on this side. Aww. You're the only person that can stay on this side of my body. Just stay on this side. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess we probably shout at them a lot. I mean, I don't fully remember, but I think he got yelled at left, right, and centre. Oh, who knows what else I must have said in that moment as well. But yeah. The thing is, that's the least that they could do, right? They could take all of that because I'd happily swap places if I could when it came to the peg.
I know. Every time I give Rod shit, he's always like, you know, I would swap places with you. And I'm like, can't even be mad because I know he would in a heartbeat. Like he would 100% be the one who's pregnant and do the delivery if he could. And he'd probably do a damn better job at it than I would, for sure. He's so much better at these things than I am. Kills me. What was I gonna say? Also, the like aftercare stuff, like I had no idea how hard breastfeeding or feeding your child in the first like 2 months is. Like, choose to breastfeed if you can breastfeed, and if you like, if you can, it's still a struggle. If you can't, it's also a struggle because you need to feed your child, and like shifting to like your mentality to like, okay, look, we have to do formula. Like, that's not easy either. But then like, with all that said, like the freaking postnatal, do you guys call it postnatal here?
Yeah, postnatal. Okay. Yeah.
The postnatal like support for all of that is so pathetic.
It really is.
I hate to break it to everybody, but we were all born from mothers at one point. Yeah. Like every single human on this planet. So why the fuck is that so like disregarded and so like underfunded? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand either. I mean, and also you just hear different things from different, like in the moment when you need some advice about something, when you're getting contradictory advice or different things being said to you from different people, it's like, this is just not, it's not even helping. It just doesn't help. And I think in general, I think the postnatal care, like, this is obviously my opinion, but I think it can be so much better.
Yeah.
Are you like referring more to like the actual postnatal care you get from like professionals, or are you generally just talking about like just all of us, right? Like we've all been through it, but why is it that people keep these struggles to themselves and not talk about it, or people feel they can't talk about it? Because if I say that I can't do something, then I almost feel like I felt like that. I for sure, like I had a struggle with breastfeeding as well. And I remember I almost didn't want to admit that I couldn't do it, right? Or it wasn't working quite how I imagined it to work because everybody else made it look so easy. So why is it that it's not so easy? But yeah, so is it more just the general support from like mothers, or
it's both?
Both.
It's both. But obviously like medical health, like the professional side of things. Yeah. I mean, I had like one post checkup, right? Like that they do for the mom, 1 or 2, I forget what it was. But they barely check. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, quick visual, move on. It's like
a tick box exercise.
Right.
Yeah.
And we also went into a lot of drop-in clinics, and I think those were more helpful than anything any advice we got from like NHS. But you have to find it on your own. Like, you have to get out, and in the middle of like having a newborn, trying to feed them, you have to now go search and seek that help that you need to get there. And that was breastfeeding for us. Like, I'm sure there's so many others, like sleep. Oh God. And you're sleep deprived during all of this. But then like, secondly, like, yeah, I think I'm guilty of it too, where like moms just don't talk about how much of a struggle it is. I do say it, but I never get into like
the nitty gritty of exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably the same for me as well, right? I'm saying it now that I really struggled with it, but actually at that time, or once I've like, there's been I've had friends, obviously, and family who have had children after I've had children, and maybe me talking about it more probably would have helped somebody else. But I think one thing I did learn is that you just have to, and it's so much easier said than done. In the moment, it's hard, but you just almost have to like just do what you think is best. Like, mum instinct is a real thing, and whatever you think is like the best thing to do, is you just have to go for it, and just to get like, just try and get all of those thoughts out of your head around like almost not what people will think. Maybe sometimes it is that, but it's like, why can that person do it and I can't? Or what are they doing that I'm not? All those kind of thoughts you just have to kind of let go. And in the end, just like do whatever works for you. Because I ended up doing like a combination, right? Like I think it took me a while to get to grips with, okay, this is just not working. Like, you're going to have to
The feeding,
breastfeed as much. Yeah, the feeding. Yeah, exactly. So breastfeed as much as you can, but don't feel like that is the only option that you have. And so we ended up doing combination pretty quickly, I think. And then second time around, I was like, yeah, I know what worked last time, and that's exactly what I'm going to do this time, and I'm not going to beat myself up about it.
Yeah.
So it's easier the second time around. But yeah, I mean, I do think that people do need to talk about it more. And I think actually it's more just don't worry, it's hard. Like, it's hard for everybody, not just you. So if you can't do it, or you feel like it's, you feel like you want to give up, like, you just keep going as much as you can, but at the same time, don't beat yourself up about it, because you just have to do like whatever's best. But yeah,
I do.
But you don't realize that, right, until after, like,
until you're like out of like the trenches, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like that was a big thing where I was like, how is everybody doing? Not even like there's feeding, but there's also just like, how is everybody just like getting on with it? Like, everyone's acting. I don't remember like my friends and my family struggling this much in the beginning. Like,
but that's the thing though, they just don't, they're struggling, but they're not saying anything, right? And like, to be quite honest and quite frank, like, in the Indian Asian community, I think we just don't like, we just feel like, if we say something, it's almost like the fear of judgment, or do I want an opinion, which, like, do I really want that opinion? Because sometimes it is more like, let me give you an opinion, of like an opinion rather than advice.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want the opinion. I just want some advice, and maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't, but hopefully it will help me. But a lot of the time it is just opinion rather than advice. And I think, there's just so many things in our Asian community where we just like feel like we can't talk about this stuff. And
there's just this pressure to just like make sure that you just look like you have everything like sorted. Like, I think of my cousins who all have children who are probably the same age as your kids, maybe even a little bit older, but they showed up to all the family functions when their babies were just probably months old, like 3 months. I remember them being at all the family events and get-togethers, and I'm thinking, no one gave you guys the breathing space. Like, we all rocked up to their house like, oh, we want to see the baby. Like, all of us, like 10, 15 people, we want to see the baby. And when people rock up to your house like that, you have to feed them. You have to like have everything. You have to be presentable. Like, what? Why did we do that? And how did you guys just get on with it?
See, this is the thing. It's like we've been like conditioned to say that we have to feed them, we have to look after them because they're guests in our house. Well, actually, like, the reality is, no, I shouldn't have to do that. And like, I think, I mean, I know I struggle with it a lot, which is sometimes I just have to learn to put myself first rather than other people. Because I mean, I think things are changing a lot now, because I do hear like a lot of, and I think also not the next generation, but I think our siblings. I mean, we're the oldest as well, right? With our siblings as well. But as like younger siblings, I think they will do things a lot differently, and they tend to set more boundaries. And I know I didn't. I definitely know I didn't. And I always say to Mick that we're in this weird generation where we feel like, I mean, I feel like we're just in the worst generation we could possibly be in, because our parents are trying to hold on to like as much as they can of their roots and where they grew up and how their parents did things, etc., etc. But at the same time, like, they've moved to countries where we almost need to move with time and do things differently, and like accept that doing things differently is okay as well. But we're also being like, it's almost like we're being dragged in this one direction and then being dragged back again, and like so it is almost like the worst generation to be in, because Whereas our kids are not going to give a shit. They're just going to be like, look, I told you no, so I told you no.
Yeah.
Whereas we're just like, oh, I don't want to say no because I feel bad. And all of those things.
Yeah.
I mean, me at least, I'll speak for myself, but I don't know if you feel the same as well.
No, we're the same way. But I will say, I really do appreciate like how much space we get with his parents, like my in-laws kind of thing. Which is good, but not everybody's family is like that. I mean, literally my parents are not like that. There's the pressure to do everything the quote unquote right way that they grew up, and without like understanding that actually you left that country 30 plus years ago and you raised your children, like you moved to this country to raise your children here for their betterment, and they did grow up here, but they also absorbed the culture from this country. So you have to give them that much space. You have to give them that understanding. But it's a big pill, a tough pill to swallow.
And it's almost like they just don't want to. I mean, do you find it's different? Like, not necessarily the upbringing. As an Indian person brought up in the US as opposed to the UK, I mean, I don't know. I know you don't know how it feels to be brought up here, but now that you've been living here for a few years, like, do you think it's very, or from what you've heard, do you think it's very different over there? And how, like, as you grow up and like the level of independence you do get and all that kind of stuff compared to over
I
here?
think so. If I compare it to Raj's upbringing versus like what he's told me versus mine, it was different. But again, I think his parents are very different compared to maybe even like more traditional, like even Indian parents here. But I think his parents gave them the space to kind of, or maybe gave him the space, maybe like he is a golden child, gave him the space to make his decisions. They didn't do that pressure. They didn't have those like hard set expectations for them. Whereas I grew up with, maybe it's a Punjabi parent thing, I don't know, but my parents definitely had expectations. My mom definitely had expectations. And a lot of my friends' parents, if not all of them, who were Indian, had the same type of expectations. We weren't allowed to have, obviously, boyfriends and girlfriends. We weren't even allowed to like hang out with our friends most days after school, kind of thing. I know I wasn't. It was very much like you come home after school, unless you have like some sort of like school education related activity, which I realized towards the end of my school years that I could have a lot of those school activities after school and just hang out with my friends. But it was very much, I think, strict. But then I do think Punjabi parents here, or Punjabi families here, are way, way more traditional and holding on to that culture more so than in the US. So I don't know, that long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one to answer because obviously you didn't grow up here either, so it's not like you've got both perspectives. But
But
yeah,
you
I
have
mean, the
cousins
reason
in the US, right?
Yeah, so I was just about to go into, because the reason I was asking is because I actually, so Mick and I both got married pretty young. We were both 24 when we got married, actually, so really, really young. And I remember some of my cousins in the US being like, you're 24 and you're getting married, and I was just like, well, it kind of, I know it's probably maybe 25, 26 is probably a little bit more normal, but I mean, it just feels like the right thing to do, and whatever, we'll kind of get on with it. And they were like, well, you haven't, like, you want to just move out and have a bit of a life before, and blah blah blah, like, not in a bad way, but they were just kind of asking all these things, and I was just like, well, why are you guys the thing is, in the US, it's such a big country, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, you actually have the opportunity, as in, this is my perspective from what I've seen, is you have the opportunity to move away. So like, it's almost like you might go to university in a completely different state, which is, I don't know, thousands of miles away or whatever. And from that point onwards, you generally, or at least from people who I know, have just ended up moving out from that point onwards, right? They either end up getting a job in the same state there, or they move to another part of the US and you don't have the choice of living at home with your parents most of the time, and then kind of working from there. Whereas over here, it's a small country, right? Wherever you go, even if I went to university up north, the chances are I'm going to get a job in London or something like that.
Yeah.
So like coming home and then saying to my parents, I am now going to move out. I finished uni and I'm going to move out and I'm just going to live my life. Even though you're only like 30 minutes away or whatever, it's almost like, no, you're not doing that. You live under my roof kind of thing. So we end up getting stuck. Like stuck is probably the wrong word, but you almost don't have a choice. And at least I felt that way. And I don't know if it's because I was the oldest child and I was the oldest child and I was a girl. And I know that my parents were definitely a lot more, especially more my dad than my mum. My mum's quite chilled and flexible, to be honest. But it was just like, a lot stricter with me. So there were so many things that I couldn't do. But then my brother and sister afterwards, like, were able to do all of those kind of things, right? So, I mean, just from conversations I've had with cousins in the US, it's like, they just get a lot more freedom a lot earlier and are able to kind of figure things out a lot earlier in life. Whereas with Mick and I, we finished university. I think we got married 2 years later or whatever. We lived with his parents for a while as well. And then we bought out. So it was a completely different route to like where we are now. And it's also parents still wanting to like hold on and like be like, okay, no, there is a very big expectation, and I think it's changing a lot now.
A huge element of that is being the oldest and being the girl, because I think my parents were 100% the same way, way more strict with me, way more. I think I had way higher expectations of me than they did of my brother, 100%.
So one of my other questions I had is, so given we're both like older siblings, do you think being the oldest is a blessing or a curse?
I think if you asked me this in my 20s, like early 20s, I would probably say it's a curse. But I think it was a blessing because I think my parents scared the shit out of me. So I made sure that I did everything the right way. And it kind of shaped how I got to where I am professionally and like from an education point of view. And kind of how I've set my like expectations of myself career-wise, I think. And being able to like have goals and kind of the drive to do things and like get places. Did they do it the right way? Probably they could have done it in a better way. There's things that they could have done differently. And I think even when I have sometimes I'll remind my mom of some of the things that happened when I was like a teenager and stuff. And she'll be like, yeah, I don't know why we did that. I don't know why we didn't let you do that. I'm just like, okay.
Why didn't you think of that then?
What the hell, man?
Doesn't help me now. Doesn't help me now, Mum. Yeah, I mean, I've had so many things, so many conversations like that as well.
Yeah.
And then I remember at like one point, like my sister would be allowed to do something, and I was like, hold on a second. When I was that age, you did not let me do that. And they're like, yeah, but it was almost like you were the one who was like the role model. We tried we tried to keep you reeled in as much as possible. Yeah. And actually, it's all fine. It's not actually as bad as we thought it was. So, the others can just carry on with their lives and do a lot more. But yeah, I mean, I thought the guys were going to be on this episode. So I was going to kind of go on to asking about, because I think Mick's the oldest child. Mm-hmm. You and I are oldest. But Raj is middle child, right? Yeah. So, but he's also the only boy. So I did have a question for him of like, what is that like? I mean, does he think that middle child syndrome is a thing?
I don't think he has it. I think because he's a boy and he's the only boy.
And he doesn't have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he has it. He does not have it. Yeah. I think he has golden child syndrome.
Oh yeah, there you go. Sounds like my brother.
Do you think we're gonna do what our parents did to us to our daughters? Because we both have firstborn girls, and right now, as of right now, we only have the one born, and we'll only have a one born.
You might change your mind. You'll forget about it in a year. I don't think we will, because I just think we have a completely different parenting style. Obviously, everybody has their own individual parenting styles. I think we're going to be a lot more open, and real about the conversations that we probably have with our girls. So, I mean, I tell my mom everything like now, but anything uncomfortable, like I would probably avoid the conversation, because it's a bit like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to kind of discuss that with you. Whereas I know from my perspective, I will discuss everything under the sun, because as far the way I see it is, if she tells me everything, and like even things like drinking, right? At a certain point when she's the right age to be able to drink, I'm not going to push back on, oh, you shouldn't be drinking, blah, blah, blah. Actually, it's probably better that I do have a glass of wine with her every now and again, because sometimes when something, like when you're told not to do something, as soon as you can do it away from the environment that you're not allowed to do it in, you could end up like totally in the opposite direction and go crazy with it. So I'm just a lot more conscious about those things. And I guess I also know what I was doing, or what things I was rebelling against in the background, hoping my parents didn't know. Maybe they did know. Maybe they did know and they chose to ignore it. Or maybe they just didn't know either. And I don't want to be a parent sitting there thinking, is she doing this? Is she doing that? I'm not saying like...
No, I know.
I'm not saying it won't be that way. Hopefully it won't be. But I will definitely be doing everything in my power to try and make sure that they're completely open and honest about everything, and then not making those things that they're open with us about negative, where they feel like they can't speak to us about it, or awkward.
I'm in the same boat. I want my kids to be able to talk to me about anything. God, I said kids. Oh, great. Here we go. Here we go.
See, I told you. You'll change your mind.
But no, I don't want my daughter to ever think that she can't come to me for like help. Exactly. And like, if she's confused or scared or like sad or whatever it is, obviously like I don't live in la la land. Like there's going to be things where she's not going to tell me about stuff, because that's just the reality of it. But for the most part, when things get real, like, or hard or difficult or whatever, I want her to come to me.
Who was the more stricter one, your mom or your dad?
My mom, 100% my mom. My dad was like, my dad's always been laid back, maybe a little too laid back, but mom was always more strict.
So, I guess it was the opposite for me. My mom was a lot more chilled out, but my dad was pretty strict. He was pretty strict. I mean, my dad could be quite scary. I remember a lot of my cousins were quite scared of him too. Sometimes it was funny to watch, because we'd like, yeah, he's scary, but actually really he's like a bit of a softie too, but they don't see it. They wouldn't see it, right? So but yeah, no, so my dad was definitely the stricter one, and I did find that was like really hard sometimes, because it was just almost like, in their generation, it's also like the authority, like the dad has the authority and blah, blah, blah. So it was just like, I said no and I said no, and that is it. It's like, okay, cool. But yeah, and just like kind of going back to your point as well, if they're ever in trouble, you want to be the first person that they call and come to, right? So yeah, but that only comes with like, I don't know, just you've got to develop that over time. Mick's a lot more laid back. When he loses his shit, but it doesn't happen very often. But I'm the more stricter one, so I feel like I'm the one who's like shouting a little bit more. But every now and again, like I do realize that, oh, hold on, she thinks she's going to get in trouble, so she's not saying that, or she's not doing that. So I have to pull myself back from it and be like, okay, you know what, chill out. I mean, I'm not that harsh, but it's just little things like that. Like if it keeps happening and you don't realize yourself that that's something to deal with, that's when it could just, over the years, it just becomes, okay, well, I can't talk to them about this, or I might get in trouble and all that kind of stuff.
So what I was gonna ask is, what's your guys' story? How did you guys meet, you and Mick?
Okay, so Raj actually likes to take a lot of credit for how me and Mick met. I'm sure you've heard.
I'll tell you what he said after.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we met through Raj. We did for sure. Raj and I obviously same course at City. Mick was his flatmate. I'm smiling just because. So I think when the first time, it just sounds so cringy, some of it now as well. Bloody hell! But anyway, the first time I probably saw Mick and he saw me, and we probably both thought to each other, "Oh, like yeah, he's hot, she's hot." We had a Diwali thing at uni. It was so weird. Like it was just like a big Diwali party. I don't know what it was called. Ask Raj, he remembers what it was called. But yeah, Mick was a complete mute, by the way, in case you didn't know. It's like
I did hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's almost like you had to use a remote control to switch on the sound button with him because he would never speak. But yeah, I think we just through Raj. I think I liked him for a bit. He liked me, but no one said anything. And he must have told Raj. I told one of our friends, who was also on the same course, and she knew from my perspective, and Raj knew, and then they just kind of figured it out between themselves once, and then told each other. So I think we started dating in second year of uni.
Oh dang, that's a long time.
That was a very long time ago. Oh my god. Yeah. Bloody hell, that was a really long time. I've actually lost count how many years, I'm gonna lie.
Oh,
but yeah, so we kind of met through them. But they do like to take a lot of credit for it, basically.
Yeah.
As you have heard.
I was running my questions by Raj before obviously putting him on my list.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted to ask Nish how they met. And Raj was like, what do you mean? Me. I'm the reason they met. That was his answer. I was like, okay, but I want her perspective of it. Thank you very much. Jeez. It was literally just like, me. I'm the reason they're together. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how much of a part him, like, I know him and one of our friends, they obviously had a discussion and figured it out and then kind of told each of us separately, blah, blah, blah. But Raj never said anything to me. So he never said anything to me. Yeah. Yeah, it was, yeah. So yeah, he can take the credit if he wants. I'll let him have that one.
Okay, that's cool. Cool. Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Okay.
I don't really want to tell our story because I feel like it's basic.
Oh no, I think you should tell us because I don't know the full story.
I mean, we just met
kind
online.
of do.
We met online.
Okay.
Honestly, I think the only reason I met up with him, like actually saw him in person, was because we literally connected, and the first thing, like within the first few like messages exchanged, he was like, do you want to go to this V&A late nights thing? And I was like, yes, because I was living here by myself, don't have a lot of friends here, and I've been wanting to go to all these museum late nights.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh cool, this is perfect. Don't really have anybody else to go to these things with. If a random person wants to go, I'll go. And then like this guy, he had it shaved. He showed up in this gray, I think that sweatshirt's downstairs. I hate that sweatshirt. But he wore it and it's like minimal effort, like no effort. He showed up like he was casually at work, decided he wanted to go grab drinks after work, found somebody online, cool, let's get drinks. And he just kind of like rocked up and I was like, okay, well, let's see how this goes. And then he sounded so arrogant. Like, you know how sometimes Raj can be really like sure of himself. And if you don't know him, you're just like, okay. Yeah. But after you like talk to him for a while, basically towards the end of the night, I was like, oh, okay, he doesn't have that big of an ego. Like he said a few things and I would be like, no, that's not true. And correct him and he'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. Like he's very good at like, if you disagree with him and you explain it, he's like, oh, okay, fine, that makes sense. Like, yeah, he's good at that. But yeah, and then we just kept dating. And then at one point I was like, oh shit, this is getting serious. I'm not staying here. I'm not staying on this island. I need to go back to California.
This island.
I'm not staying on the island. I'm going back to California. Like, no, this is not getting serious. And I remember like things were like really good, and I was just like, okay, I have to end it here. And so he was like, hey, do you want to grab something to eat? And I was like, okay. After we ate, there was like a little market in the area, and there was like a cupcake stall. And if you know Raj, you know that he has a massive weakness for sweets, especially cakes, and with like buttercream on top. So they had cupcakes, and I got a cupcake, sat down, a cupcake for him, and we sat down, and I was like, literally, he's like just starting to eat it, and I was like, right, now's the time. Hey, this isn't gonna work. I'm moving to California. We're like, we kind of have to end it here. Like, it's been fun, but I gotta go. And he's like mid bite into this cupcake, and he's like, what? We just had a really nice time. Did you just give me a cupcake because you were gonna break up with me? I was like, well, yeah, damn it. I didn't think you'd catch on to that. Oh my God. It didn't work. My breakup failed.
No, it clearly didn't work. Now, so. Yeah, it wasn't meant to work.
Yeah. But yeah, he's been a good one. Very lucky to have him. I have to say, out of like all the bitching and complaining I've been doing about pregnancy, maternity stuff, he's definitely been my rock, and I would not have been able to like, I'd be a very different mental state if he wasn't the way he is. Like, he's been my number one champion throughout all of it, and my voice of like assurance and keeping me calm and like reminding me of like the good and the positive. And it's so important for a partner to be like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It is, and sometimes it is just those little things that they end up doing or saying which make a massive difference, and they don't realize it themselves. And sometimes maybe in the moment we don't realize it either, but actually they do make a massive difference.
He's a good one.
Has he ever told you about all the pranks they used to pull at uni? Maybe I should start exposing them a little bit, actually.
Well, I know of the phone pranks because they freaking played it at the reception.
Have you heard? That was okay, Gagan. That was just one. Yeah, that was just one thing, and I don't know where they found that from. I was like, oh, that is genius, because actually, I think Raj is the one who has all of the recordings.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought maybe Ash has some of them as well, but actually Raj has them all, so he's kind of got control over what can be. But yeah, there were phone calls. There was all sorts of things. I mean, I'm not going to lie, some of it was really, really funny. But also, they both. So one thing Mick and Raj used to do a lot, which at that time I used to think this is really odd, but okay, whatever works for them. But they would like randomly do little skits of like Indian movie scenes and bust out like Hindi, like in Hindi. And I was just like, what is going on right now? But there's this one film they used to watch, Hungama.
Yep.
I don't know if you've heard. Oh, have you heard of it?
He's made me watch it. Of course I've heard of it.
Yeah,
I've watched it like thousands of times.
Yeah, and they literally role play. Like, is it Paresh Rawal who's in that film, right? They literally role play those scenes, and it is quite funny. But it was just and some of these pranks that they've pulled on people.
So
some of them are not even repeatable, because I probably shouldn't go too far. But yeah.
I have heard of things being thrown into the neighbors or at the neighbors. It's like pasta or something.
Pasta. So which one is this? So now I'm trying to figure out which one. So there's this one story. This is going to expose most of them now. I won't say names, but so they were living in. So final year, they had an apartment in Newington Green, and so four of them, right? There's four of them who are sharing a flat. And from one of their bedrooms, they could see into like the back garden, and there was another garden. Yeah. Do you know about this one? The slingshot.
Wait, don't keep going. I don't know it then.
So basically, there was a woman who was living in one of the houses behind who kept coming outside into their garden to take a dump. So not into their garden, into her garden. So she would come outside and she would take a dump in her garden.
What?
And they kept like Mick was like, this is happening. I was like, nah, whatever. I don't believe it. There is no chance somebody is doing that. That is disgusting. Yeah. And I actually saw it one of the days. I was like, he was like, no, it's happening now. You need to see it. But basically, do you know what they started doing? They had a slingshot. In one of their rooms, they had a slingshot.
Of course they did.
They got Skittles. You know what Skittles are, right?
Of course I know what Skittles are.
No, just in case. I don't know if it's like a UK British chocolate, but yeah, it's sweet. But anyway, yeah, you've been here long enough. But they basically would just fire Skittles at her every time she came out and did that.
Oh my God. Where do they come up with this shit? Oh, I am pretty sure Raj probably orchestrated way more of those things than he will admit, especially the skits. Do you remember the video? The video
yes.
that
in the garden, the one in the garden.
The garden.
Or is it a different one?
No, remember Mick, Raj, and Hiran?
Yeah.
The skit that they did at Raj's house.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
Like what? Who the hell?
Yeah, they used to do so much of that shit. And actually, they're all as bad as each other. They all try and make out like they're all as bad as each other, but it is hilarious. It's hilarious to watch.
Yeah. But I feel like that level of I don't have that kind of creativity. Like, I think that whatever is in their brains that got them to do those things has probably led them to this moment, creating Bruvcast and like having the creativity and that mindset to be able to do it. I wouldn't do it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like even sometimes when I'm like walking past and they're like laughing their heads off, I'm like, bloody hell! It's been like, God, how many years have they known each other now? I don't like to think about years anymore because it just makes me think about my age.
Is it 20 years?
Probably something like that, yeah.
Really 20?
And I've been hearing this like conversation and this kind of laughter for like so many years, and it just still continues.
Yeah, well, that's great. Those kind of friendships are hard to find. So I think we're gonna call it here. Do you want to do your plug for? By the way, the husbands, Mick and Raj, have done all these shout outs for these businesses and people. Mick has not shouted out his wife's business, her side hustle. Do you want to shout yourself out? This is what this is coming to.
So, oh God. Yeah, I mean, I have a side hustle called Lou and Lee, which I started with one of my friends a few years back. Kind of running solo on it now. I do miss her. She's moved to Australia, so no longer able to help me over here in the UK. But basically, I sell personalized goods for like all sorts of things. So different cultural events, Christmas and things like that. Yeah, I'm not used to giving myself and my own business a shout out, so that's probably as far as I can go.
Yeah, and her stuff is really cute, guys. Go check it out. Place orders. Order her stuff.
Thank you.
It's very cute.
Thanks, Gagan.
I'm vouching for it. Yeah, and also when this episode airs, it's going to be your birthday. So happy birthday, future Nish.
Oh, thank you. And guys, if you do have any questions about the husbands, Gagan and I do not mind sharing some truths or elaborating on some of the things that they do say. So
happy to do that anytime. Just shoot us a message.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah. So shoot the Bruvcast a message.
Yeah, exactly. Send a message. We'll try and monitor and make sure they're not trying to hide some of those questions. But yeah. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks, Gagan. You're the best.
Thanks, Nish. You too. Please don't stop listening to the podcast, guys. I hope we didn't lose any of the listeners.
Yeah, it'll be back to those two next week and you'll hear that laugh. Don't worry.
I can't even do Raj's. I can't.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Bye.